All right, peace to you, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Now, what a fitting time for me to make this video. I'm going to be talking about Zyzz, I'm going to talk about bodybuilding, and just right now, at this moment, I'm actually trying to gain size, bulk up, I'm eating more food, I'm working hard in the calisthenics, and it's such a fitting time for me to make this video. And the message of today's video is that Zyzz was not peak masculinity, okay? Zyzz was not peak masculinity. Now, for those of you who don't know who Zyzz is, Zyzz kind of pioneered the movement of aesthetics within bodybuilding. And for those of you who don't know what aesthetics is essentially where it's kind of a niche subside of bodybuilding where people, they stop focusing on being such a big mass monster, just gaining as much size as possible, and instead building muscle in the right spots, having the right proportion, a low level of body fat percentage, lean body mass, and just like having a very aesthetic, just a very pleasing, almost like statue looking physique. That's kind of what aesthetics is, not necessarily being the biggest, but having nice proportion. And Zyzz pioneered that, and Zyzz has kind of become the God within this modern movement of reject degeneracy and embrace masculinity. And of course, I can get along with that message. I can absolutely agree with that. I reject degeneracy. I embrace masculinity. Of course, I think men should do that. And I utterly repudiate liberalism and all this crap that's promoted in the modern world. But Zyzz has kind of become the face of this. And I think that that's absolute nonsense, because Zyzz was not peak masculinity. If you study the guy's life, Zyzz was a complete degenerate. He was a party animal who abused drugs, who was an atheist savage, who screwed around with a bunch of women, seemed to have no moral principles, and died a humiliating and untimely death at a young age. That was Zyzz's legacy. That's all he had, that's all he was, that's all he ever did. And I don't know how in the world, in whose right mind, who was the person who decided to make this man, this degenerate atheist savage, the example of peak masculinity? He was a complete failure. And I know probably most of you who've seen these videos, you've never actually seen him speak. You just kind of see Zyzz doing his poses to some like hard dubstep beat playing in the background. I encourage you, go, actually don't even watch it, but if you do watch videos from speaking, the guy is like an actual airhead. He doesn't know anything. He can hardly even speak or let out a complete sentence without dropping an F-bomb or a bruh or a mate. He sounds like an idiot. The guy sounds like an idiot, and he lived a humiliating life, and he is not an example of peak masculinity, yet he is extolled as this great, virtuous, masculine hero, and literally worshipped like a god within this reject degeneracy and embrace masculinity movement. He's worshipped like a god. People almost see him as like divinely inspired. He's the patron saint of this underground, bubbling part of the internet. And like I said, I repudiate it. The true examples of masculinity, the true examples are men like the prophets, Moses, Jesus, Abraham, Muhammad. These men, these were not degenerate men. These were men who had beyond themselves, beyond their base material possessions and their base appetites, like Zyzz, who just screwed around with a bunch of women, encouraged men to do the same and gloated about this. Beyond all of that, these men had moral principles. They followed what the Most High revealed to them. They had faith, they had character, they had righteousness. They decided to put aside their own desires and their own wishes and their own vain inclinations to instead follow what is truly better for them and truly better for society. These people are the men we should be extolling as virtuous, and these are the true peak masculinity, not Zyzz. Zyzz was a complete failure. He lived a humiliating life and died a humiliating, untimely death, okay? Let's reject this. Reject modernity, embrace masculinity movement, because it is a complete failure and perhaps even a psyop from the government itself. So the men we should be following are the men who are the prophets, who God has told us about. True masculinity does not come from this kind of gimme mindset. Give me as much money, give me as much muscles, give me as much, and muscles is fine. Get big, get strong, of course, keep your body in shape. That's a core principle of masculinity, but just like pumping yourself up with drugs, getting as many women as possible, going to the club, getting hammered, living that crazy lifestyle, getting as much money as possible. This is not true masculinity at all. Not at all. Not at all. Masculinity comes from within. It actually comes from above. It comes from the Most High. It's the first moral principles that are within you that guide you to doing right and just actions in your life. And I kind of see all these guys, whether it be Zyzz, whether it be Hamza, First Man, the guy who died, what was his name? Kevin Samuels, who else was it? Rich Cooper, all these people they all, I see them all, and Andrew Tate, I see them all within the same kind of sphere. They come from the same philosophy. It's secularism. It's not based in moral principles. It's just teaching men how to get as much carnal pleasure as possible within this world, and to die happy knowing that you did that you got to enjoy the greatest things in this world, living this vain, pathetic, empty life. And while I'm not against the kind of the principles that these guys teach of, or the kind of tactics that these guys teach of, gaining money, you want to become stronger, you want to get in shape, these things are not bad in and of themselves, but when you preach them in a moral vacuum, without any moral framework, without any righteous guiding principles, then the entire thing becomes empty and consumerism in the end. It's vain, and it's not a true way for a man to live. And I see all these guys, including Zyzz, as within the same sphere. It's the secular, atheistic replacement to masculinity in the vacuum that has been left over by liberalism, leftism, woke culture, all this crap, all the leftover vacuum of masculinity. People are just, desperate. We want manliness, we want men to excel. These guys have come in with the replacement of secular masculinity. And I see that all as an aberration. I see it all as a deviation from what is true masculinity. I see them all within the same circle. And specifically, on the subject of Andrew Tate, which I just mentioned him, the guy is a complete hypocrite. Most of these people are hypocrites. Hamza talks about how the religious man is manly. I've talked about this in videos. I've exposed him. How he mentions how the man who believes in God, who has faith in the scriptures, the family man, all these characteristics of the religious traditional man, he is the most masculine. Yet Hamza doesn't follow that. He still teaches you how to get women, how to become a Chad, how to become, not muscular to just, become strong and respectable. He teaches you how to become muscular so that you can attract as many women as possible. That's what Hamza does. And First Man does the same. On top of that, Andrew Tate does the same. Andrew Tate, he even attends the Orthodox Church. He attends the Orthodox Church. He talks about his respect for Islam. And he even says that out of all the religions in the world, he sees Islam as the one surviving, and he respects their traditional masculinity. He goes to the Orthodox Church. He respects traditional forms of Christianity, which is why he goes to the Romanian Orthodox Church. Yet, despite all that, he says the respect for these religions, yet he teaches you the same thing. He brags about all the beautiful women he has in his car, in his sports car, driving around in a Lamborghini. He's always got the hottest woman in his car. It's ridiculous. It's hypocritical. How can you go ahead and praise these men, the traditionally religious man on the one hand, and promote him and support him, yet at the same time be promoting and supporting your filth and your garbage with the traditional Muslim man, the traditional Romanian Orthodox man will look at you and abhor your deeds and say you are disgusting and you are filling for yourself coals in the fire by promoting this stuff. How can you promote that on the one hand and then say you love the religious man on the other? It's ridiculous, it's nonsense, it's hypocritical. These are not true men. What they're teaching you, and this is not my own observation, this is actually a comment which I read on one of Elliot Hulse's videos, and Elliot Hulse, I see him as more in line with what true masculinity is about. He understands family, he understands chastity, he understands that true masculinity comes from moral, righteous principles, not just gimme, 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 like what these men promote. And it was a comment left on one of Elliot's videos, and the guy said that, specifically his video actually, where Elliot says Andrew Tate is wrong. And a comment underneath it said, Andrew Tate does not preach true masculinity. He preaches how to be the cool high school jock. That's exactly what he does. He teaches you how to be the high school hero. He hasn't grown out of high school, and he wants to be the high school hero. And who's the high school hero? The guy with all the girls, the guy who just has gimme, gimme, gimme. He lives a gimme, gimme, gimme lifestyle. But at some point or another, a man is to grow up, he is to mature, he's to become more righteous, more wiser, and understand that true masculinity comes from moral principles, it comes from faith, it comes from philosophy, it comes from integrity, it comes from having good character. And whether we are talking about Zyzz, whether we're talking about Hamza, whether we're talking about First Man, these people are failures in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, they may be able to teach you how to make money. Yeah, they may be able to teach you how to grow a big muscular body, but as far as true masculinity and being a true, wise, temperate, righteous man, a true, dependable, reliable, masculine man who doesn't put himself first, but instead puts what is right first. He puts his desires aside instead to follow what is righteous and honorable. As far as that standard goes, these men are completely empty and shallow. They fall short. And that is why I think Zyzz as a masculine role model is a complete and utter abomination, and I repudiate it completely. So I just wanted to make this quick video, guys. I wanted to counter signal all this reject modernity, embrace masculinity, and Zyzz being the figure of that, Zyzz being like this literal prophet and God within that movement. I think it's insanity, and I think we should go back to following the scriptures and following true masculinity, which the example given to us in the scriptures is the prophets. These guys were true men. They were family men. They were temperate. Like I said, they put aside their own desires and their own wishes. We even have the example of Yusuf in the Quran, Joseph, how he, even though he desired the king's wife at that moment, he said that the Quran says that she desired him and he desired her, but he put that aside because he knew that would be unrighteous to sleep with another man's wife. That would be evil, that would be wicked, that would be a sin. Now, I don't think Zyzz would have done that. If Zyzz was attracted to the king's wife, he would have slept with her. Hamza likely would have slept with her. First man would have slept with her. Kevin Samuels would have slept with her. But the true man, Yusuf, he says, no, I don't want to wrong my soul. I don't want to do evil. Every action he had drove out of himself from first principles, righteous principles within him. And that is what I'm promoting here today. And I want you guys to never forget that is true masculinity. But anyways, men, that's really all I got to say on the matter. I hope this talk was a blessing. And yeah, peace to you. Remember, deceit abounds, so keep your eyes wide open. Peace out. Assalamu alaikum, men. My name is Walid Naeem, and I have dedicated my entire life towards spreading the truth about the words of God. And I don't know about you, but personally, I have grown sick and tired of all these mainstream religions, and specifically the mosques, which have utterly failed us. I'm fed up with them placing the words of man, specifically their fabricated hadiths, at a higher authority than God's holy scriptures, their lack of knowledge about conspiracy facts and realpolitik, and their complete ignorance of the true nature of our earth. I've had enough of their compromise, their weakness, their lame sermons which put people to sleep, their virtue signaling, their fear of facing any real persecution, and their willingness to let the quote-unquote secular atheist utterly trample over them. The atheists own all of the educational boards and teach their propaganda to every so-called Muslim and quote-unquote non-Muslim child here in the West. And now with the Toyota Corolla hoax, the atheist has successfully broken apart our communities and made us utter slaves to their government. Our so-called quote-unquote Muslim sons are a bunch of wannabe hood rat gangsters who vape, drink, smoke weed, and party like animals. And our so-called quote-unquote Muslim daughters are not much different. They have no interest in hearing about the word of God. They are all too busy YOLOing. This has all happened while the imams have been living very comfortably off of the hard-earned money of their community members in the donation bins. As stated before, I personally am completely fed up with this. The mosques have had all of the support, funding, enfranchisement, and time of our communities and have produced absolutely nothing. The atheist has made the so-called quote-unquote Muslim man his bitch. He has steamrolled him in every way possible. That is why I created Eyes Wide Open. This channel exists as a call to action for all of those strong believing men who trust in their Lord fully and refuse to compromise the Quran. It is time the true sons of Adam and the inheritors of the tremendous tradition, in other words, the true Quranic Muslims, to set up something for themselves and fearlessly stand up against the madness that is going on in the world. What you see with my channel right now is only the beginning. These short videos I make in my car are all that I have time for right now, working a full-time job. I scribble these together while at work and make these videos while running errands. But you ain't seen nothing yet. If God should will, I have so much more in store for Eyes Wide Open. I want this to be a platform for the believers. Just a couple of things I have planned for this channel is, firstly, creating scholarly books, documentaries, and essays to arm you guys with the intellectual firepower for dealing with all of our enemies. Secondly, I would like Eyes Wide Open to be a center for heavy activism, public and street preaching, going to City Hall, organizing protests, knocking doors, going to baseball, hockey, soccer, basketball, and other major sporting events and preaching to the people leaving the stadium, going to the totally failed mosques, synagogues, and churches and debating with their religious leaders, going to universities and debating the quote-unquote secular professors on their laughable so-called science, and much more. It's time the believers start to fight back and shake the cage of this disgusting system. My goal is to create a base for the believers. I want people to know of our name, that there are dedicated, zealous, and studious men who do not compromise the word of God, and we are ready to take action. If we keep waiting for our mosque to do something about the real problems of this world, then we will be waiting until Judgment Day. We need to create something now from the ground up. With that being said, may God bless us in all of our endeavors and guide us every step of the way. If this sounds like something you are interested in, and if you want to be a part of the movement, then you can help me out. My Patreon and PayPal are linked in the description of every video, and, God willing, if enough generous believers decide to fund this platform, then I can quit my full-time job and look for something part-time, or, even better than that, leave employment completely, which will give me more hours in the day to do this work. I do not care to be rich. All of that stuff is vanity anyways. But the fact of the matter is, my wife and I need to eat and have a roof over our heads. So, if you wish to support the cause, then I thank you sincerely for that and promise to fight with might and main in the cause of God for the believers. If you are not able to, hey, then I totally understand. Find somebody else who needs that money and give it to them. Give it out of fear of your Lord and in dread of that great and terrible day, which is coming to all of us. For all of the believers out there, the brothers and sisters who follow hard upon the truth, all I can say is much love to each and every one of you. May God reward you in this life and the hereafter. Praise goes to God alone. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Peace.